I've had the pleasure of knowing Maria for almost 20 years. It seems like yesterday when we were in the gym at Centennial High School. But Maria was a two-sport star at our high school at Centennial in Roswell, and after finishing her prep career, she took her talents to Athens, Georgia, where she starred on both the volleyball and basketball team in the SEC for Georgia. And while she was at Georgia, she found her passion in sports broadcasting, and after graduating from the Grady School of Journalism, she hooked up with our folks that we follow, seems like every day at ESPN and she's had a variety of different roles with ESPN. And Maria, you can certainly add on to this list, but you can find her on College Game Day on Saturday mornings, on ABC in the evenings for the game of the week, women's basketball, women's volleyball, analysts, and now her most latest endeavor. She's the personality and voice on NBA Countdown. So if you are a fan of ESPN, you'll see Maria frequently, and she's from our area and has been a great advocate in a lot of different ways, and has joined our program specifically in the past, and our volleyball program in the past. And we're just excited to be able to spend some time with you today, and thank you again for taking the time. I want to make sure before we get off that you have the chance to talk about the Winning Edge and all the stuff that you're doing with that as well. So, but just want to make sure that we give you the time with your busy schedule to get this conversation going. And the floor is yours, and I got some questions that I've got, and I know our participants on the call are going to hop in with some questions as well. But just once again, thank you again for taking the time with us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Maria, over the last week to 10 days, you've almost gone a little viral with your ability to step out and speak on some interesting topics and some important topics. And so one of the things that I wanted to reach and discuss today with our student leaders and our student athletes and coaches alike that are joining us, what and how, as leaders on our campus and our community, can we use our platforms to affect positive change in society now and in the future?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, again, Alex, thank you so much for having me on. You guys got a good leader there, and little old Mr. Ritchie. I feel like I've watched him grow up and tutor to a coach, and I love being on campus with your young ladies, and I know that you're building up strong women, and obviously it's great to be on with and even scope and talk to more athletes that are on campus. But I think that right now, that age group and the kids that are on campus are going to be the ones that change everything moving forward. And I got to be honest, earlier this week when I saw, or a week ago when George Floyd died, I felt hopeless, especially following up, the death of Ahmaud Arbery. But I was listening to a podcast and it said that if we give up hope now, then we're giving up on an entire generation. So I refuse to give up on you guys, but obviously it's in your control. So I think the biggest question is, how are you guys communicating with one another? Who is going to be the person that steps up and feels as though they're the leader in this time? And it starts with your community. So how accepting do you feel like Oglethorpe is? What are some of the things that you do to make sure the minorities on your team or the women that are around an all male group, how do they feel? Have you had those conversations, and even looking into finding more information and making yourself more knowledgeable about the experience that your Black community has been through? That's going to be the key. And literally, I just got off a call, Alex, from ESPN, and we're having a whole call with everyone in college football and opening up the airwaves and just saying, hey, just talk to us about your experiences being Black in America, then talk to us about your experiences about being Black at ESPN. And then let's address how to make it more comfortable for you, or see what it looks like if things were to change for you. How would you change them? How would you mentor, and how would you help diversify, our company? And so we're having those conversations as a community of broadcasters, and you guys can be having those conversations as a community of student athletes at one university. And then obviously coming up with a plan on how you can affect change in the community that surrounds you, and whether that's going to a local school that may be impoverished, or it's inner city, or it serves a marginalized community, and letting them know and see that, place for you here, go to college and you can have a scholarship, or if you work hard, these certain things could come to you. And a lot of times it's just about being in touch with and seeing how be that allows them to kind of break outside that mold and that shell and not settle for what's around them. So exposure is a big thing. So trying to get involved in the probably the next big step you would take after, of course, understanding what's going on in your own community.
Yeah, so it's really about breaking down what we've got going on here and then seeing where we can go and progress forward. And I think that's a great point. And it's awesome to hear that you all are even doing that on such a large scale with ESPN, and certainly an interesting time. And, like we talked about earlier, our platform is obviously not the size and scope of yours. And maybe could you talk about, in regards to, your presence on social media, your presence, that's so visible. How about some ways and some methods that our coaches, our student athletes that are not as visible on that social media platform, and how they can affect change maybe in that regard? It may not necessarily be as visible as what you're doing, but some of the things that you could recommend or areas of improvement that don't necessarily have to do with the video broadcast side that you get to display every day.
Teams like of course I'll go to the University of Georgia because that's where I went to school, but I saw the tight ends on Georgia's team. They decided they wanted to come out with a little video, and basically they were asking, "Can you hear me now?" to all of the fans that come into the stands and support them, and they're saying, "Hey, do you hear us now when we're struggling?" And we as a Black community, tight ends are Black, would want their support now, and like finding ways that they can get fans involved to rally behind trying to create justice, basically. And so there's opportunities for that. And sometimes it does come in the form of working together. Is there a statement that you want to release together? Is there a video that you want to put together, which we all know you guys have iMovie on your phones. You can create videos by yourself. You guys have coaches, and literally the video ended with the tight ends coach or the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator coming on. You hear my student athlete, I'm standing here in solidarity with them. And a lot of times that is the best way to approach dealing with something like this. It's showing solidarity with your group, showing that you guys are one, because at the end of the day, there are going to be naysayers. And, you've seen, like, I've received text messages from people that don't approve of what I'm saying, and you have to be ready to deal with those things. And the only Teflon you're going to have during that situation is having the support of a group that backs you up. And so that might be your team, or that might be your university. So I would say kind of working together and doing that. And then obviously just understanding that you need to understand what's at the root of the issue. So if the issue that you would like to attack is police brutality, research some numbers, understand what it is you want to say. When I was making my Drew Brees comments, I made sure, what percentage of the league was, because I needed to know if I'm going to bring up a conversation or wonder if he has been empathetic. I need to know exactly the percentage of individuals that are already in his league. That should be the reason to know, what kneeling means. If the issue is criminal justice, then try to understand some of the underlying issues. There's great books out there that you could read and try to make yourself a little more knowledgeable. And so what I would say is that it takes more than just a social media stance to the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem is misunderstanding. The heart of the problem is not being knowledgeable. And I really do believe that racism is a heart problem. So those are some of the things that you can do before you even decide to start posting, but that is a big deal. And then obviously standing in solidarity together, that makes a huge difference when someone's trying to tear down the walls of your team or whatever, protest you guys wanted to do together or statement that you wanted to release together.
Yeah, I think that's great. And one of the things that you started to touch on a little bit that I think is so powerful and something that you've always displayed throughout your career, and as long as I've known you, is just this sense of confidence and courage. And where do you necessarily draw that from? And where do you recommend, obviously, our young people that are trying to draw that sense of courage as well?
Yeah. Well, if I'm being honest, and I'm not just saying this because your dad's on the call, but coaches and like mentors that I've had over time have built me up, and he can probably go back to points in time when I wasn't courageous or comfortable in taking a last shot or feeling comfortable and like, you are good. Like, I had to be told that, or you're going to be great. You have to be told that. My family has been super supportive of any and everything that I've wanted to say and been building me up. And so you find support in the people that love you the most fiercely and that can criticize you the hardest, because once someone has built you up, that they can, when they try to break you down, it's for good. And you need to have people like that in your life. So I don't know if that is your coach. I don't know if that is a teacher or something like that, but that's what's built kind of courage in me. Like, people have constantly breathed life into me. They've spoken life into me. They've told me what I can become. They've never, taken anything off the table for me. And so I've fed into that every step of the way. And like, basically I've believed them. So people have told me what I'm going to be. And I'm like, all right, well, if you believe it, maybe I can do it. And it's just kind of become a part of me. But I know for a fact that sports have played a big role in that. I know for a fact, like, the coaching that I have received over time has played a big role in that. And that means everything.
Great. We've had all these discussions about and heard the word systemic racism and other hot topic items that are being brought up on a day-to-day basis. And tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're seeing, even since you've taken a stand over the last week, that could give us some optimism about what's gonna move us forward. It seems like this is a time where people are really stepping out, and hopefully it's going to lead to some positive changes to our society. But what are you seeing that gives you some optimism?
Yeah, I think how I see involved, the youth that's been involved in nonviolent protests has been amazing. And it's been all walks of life. It's been sexual orientations. It's been different races and different ages. And I've loved every bit of that. But honestly, it's been people's willingness to listen. I think for so long, we've viewed racism as this invisible thing that we all want to jump back and say, oh, that person's using the race card and grew up in the suburbs and you're Black, then guess what? You should have the same amount of opportunities as everyone else. But the reality is, if you look at the numbers, if you are a Black man that grows up in the suburbs, you don't have the same you don't graduate college at the same rate as your white counterpart. And so there's still an issue there, or there's still a problem. You're not going to make as much money as your white peer that grew up in the exact same neighborhood and went to the exact same high school. And so for the first time ever, we're able to say those things, and people are, let me sit back and listen first and not jump to, well, don't just use race as an excuse to not be great. No one's saying that anymore, because we're realizing that there's been a system in place for 400 years. It's the roots of America that have grown into where we are today, where we still have issues and we still have a lot of different things like the criminal justice system that are in place that are making sure that the vast majority are more Black people in jail or people of color, white men in jail. The biggest being able to listen, opening hearts is a very, and I think too, like, people like my next has not just like, oh, it's somebody out in the hood. It's somebody that I don't really know. It's a different Black America that's affected by this. It's like, no, it's me. You know what I mean? It's me out my entire life, and have known day one that feels like I need to take my keys out before I get the car because I feel like it's a nice car and I don't want anyone to think I'm stupid. You know what I mean? And those are some of the things that we're starting to accept in here. And it's the people just wanting to help now. Like, and I'm feeling that from work, like the number of calls I've received since that video, the number of people that are just like, so what can we do? There's like a galvanizing spirit, and I'm thankful for it. I'm sad that we had to watch someone die in the street to get here, but I'm thankful that maybe that death is going to promote something that we've never seen in this country before. And it's nothing short of a revolution or an next phase for us.
Well, I've got our first incoming question, and it's from somebody you know pretty well, and Coach Jack. His question is, there's so many in our community struggling with the generational issue, okay? We've got a younger generation that's on this call. And how can you recommend, the younger generation even talking about these things with an older generation?
That's a great question. I do sometimes, because you're always wondering, okay, so what was your background? Or if me and Coach Jack sat down and be like, well, I don't really know how he grew up or what did his parents really believe and things like that. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to take a very authentic conversation and understanding. So we're going to have to lay it all. Grew up in South Georgia, and here's what my family believed. Here's how I move forward, or the turning point for me, or this is when I learned about what racism was, and this is how I knew that my cousin or my friend or whatever was how here for you, what I want for you, and blah blah blah. It's going to take some real honesty, and we're going to have to be able to have those conversations and not, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of the next phase, is where we're not hiding from anything. We're laying cards on, we're trying to move forward and build things better for tomorrow, if that makes sense. But I think it takes a lot of honesty.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we've talked about some of these, and we were texting, I know, back and forth about this last night. Talk to us a little bit about the Winning Edge and what you're doing with that. And I think it's such a special platform that you've utilized and created. And I think that's something that a lot of people get to see on TV, but they don't know what you're doing with the awesome things with Winning Edge.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And honestly, there's probably people on this call that could benefit from it if they're interested. But the Winning Edge Leadership Academy is a nonprofit that I co-founded 5 years ago. And it's all about helping women and minorities get into the sports industry. So when I go to campuses and say I'm doing game day at Oregon, I'll find a women's volleyball player and say, hey, just come and shadow me. And like this sports broadcasting thing, like I'm trying to expose what it's like broadcasting. Or if a student athlete reaches out to me and they're like, hey, I want to be a producer one day, then I bring them to game day at Georgia, and then you're in the truck while the producer produces. And all we do is try to build a bridge and build a talent pool of minorities and women that are interested in sport. And I'm connected to so many schools and universities and networks that I know when the jobs are available. So we're trying to help place them. We have a retreat every year. Last year, we were actually in Atlanta, had to cancel it this year because of COVID. And we have an Intersports Entertainment Summit where we're just bringing in industry leaders, and they're getting to meet the kids who could be the next. And it's really all about the opportunity. So we're providing the opportunities. We're sitting down, we're going over resumes. We are giving them mentors so they have to talk to. When they get into their job, 5 years, a lot of now they have jobs in sports, but they're dealing with certain issues. Or how do I go and talk to my boss and ask for a promotion? And we're there for them. We have kids that have gone off and played professionally, and now their career's over, and now they're trying to figure out what's next. And we help them get into grad school or talk through that. And really, we're just trying to be a conduit of change and diversity and building diversity, so that when someone says, we're looking for diverse candidates, we just can't find them. We can't find the talent pool. We're like, we got it already. We found them. We've been training them. Come get them, So exposure, building opportunities, and I think building confidence too in minorities and women is what we're focused on.
That's awesome. And I know I know we talked about this yesterday, and we're going to try to figure out how we can get more involved with Winning Edge, and whether it's doing some events on our campus or figuring out how we can have some of our student athletes as they finish up their time playing with us, how we can get them involved that way, because we have so many kids that are interested in those opportunities, and having a mentor like you for them would be something that you can't put a price tag on. So did want to make sure that we brought up everything you're doing with Winning Edge, because that is just a fantastic organization. And I'll be sure to connect our folks with more literature about that. I've got to do my research on my end with what you're doing with that. But going back to some of our topics, you stepped out with Drew Brees, and it's really been a monumental change of event. Even Roger Goodell coming out to with the protests and things of that nature. Talk about a little bit how that reaction has come towards you, and I know you've seen obviously both the positive and the negative. Talk about how that reaction has worked for you.
Yeah, I think initially, and I said in a couple articles, I wasn't interested in doing First Take, or I had some trepidation there, because I was like, I'm not one that's usually, my job is not to give opinions. Like, I host and I report and, I entertain and do a lot of different things, but not necessarily give an opinion. And afterwards, obviously, there was a really big fallout. But what I felt was important in that moment, hold people, like, we understand that our words mean something. So if we are using a narrative to describe something that is just completely false, then we should be held accountable. And if you feel that way, that's fine. But I just want you to know that I'm going to read that as a dog whistle, or that you refuse to learn more about the actual issue. And in a time like this, there's no tolerance for that. We don't have time for you to not be educated. We don't have time for you to be a leader in sport and say things like that when 70% of your league is Black. We don't have time for it. And so I feel like the fallout has been on both sides. For the most part, it's been very positive, and people trying to say that it's a message that we all needed to hear. Like, we all needed to know that what we're saying really does matter. who we say it to actually does matter, and how much we know before we speak is the most important thing that we could possibly add into the conversations right now, just being knowledgeable before we have a conversation. And the positive, I think, part of that has been people that have come to me that's like, I've never thought about it that way. You know what I mean? And that's okay too. Like, it's okay to just say, I just didn't know. And let's have a conversation about that and walk our way back from that. But again, I think it takes a lot of being authentic and being very genuine. And we've seen Drew Brees completely come out, and he tweeted directly at the president and was almost like, okay, just stop saying my name. And I do understand what this means now. And I thought that that was a very big step for him, because he took himself out on a limb and literally told, you know, Donald Trump, like, I'm just to be clear, yes, I apologize. And I feel like this is exactly why I should apologize. And I'm not really going to take it back. And so when he did that, I was like, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that there's space for him to make that turn. There's space for him to say what he said, learn from it, and then grow. You know what I mean? And he actually had an actionable, very public step that we all were able to witness and kind of see that full circle that he went through.
Yeah, and another educational piece for a gentleman who's going probably through a tough time right now is, you know, you talked to, even I saw some stuff yesterday, talk about the Jake Fromm situation.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously with Jake Fromm, his was a text message, and I felt like, this, because I've talked since, I said, if my text messages were revealed to the whole world, like, all of us would be like, no, I didn't mean it this way, or didn't say it that way, or whatever. But what we learned from Jake was the way that we talk to the people that we're it still matters. Those conversations can incite even like the little bit of, if that comment undertone. So that might make your friend think it's okay to say something back to you that has a racist undertone, or that might open up a floodgate of like, okay, well, we could talk about people any way that we want to. And that was with one text. That was like 3 words in a text message. And unfortunately, has to be the martyr for that, because he is, and I told you, you are 21 years old, so you have plenty of time to learn from this and grow from this. And there's other, I expect more from someone who's 40 years old. I expect more from Drew Brees than I do from Jake Fromm. But at the end of the day, we all learned from that. How are we talking to our friends? How are we addressing certain situations? Would we be okay if that text message got out? Would we be okay if our conversations were on tape? Like, these are probably the things that we should be thinking to ourselves, because honestly, we live in a world today where all of those things are possible. All of your messages could be leaked, and all of your conversations, someone could tell another person about it. So we need to be careful with the way that we are addressing things. And honestly, like I keep saying, but it's a heart check. And if your heart's in the right place, you're probably going to be texting the right things. If your heart's in the right place, you're probably going to be saying the right things, if that makes sense. But I think that he's giving us all a lesson, and he's having to learn it at 21 and grow from it and be better.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously, like, as coaches, we have this conversation with our athletes, you know, so frequently about what you post on social media, your Snapchats, all that type of stuff. You know, we live in a day and time where those things can follow you forever. And it's our hope that, you know, this text message thread that went with Jake is not going to follow him the rest of the career, but, you know, it may very well, you know, and just the day and time that we're living in, it's very smart to, you know, make sure that you're posting the things that you're putting in writing, like, you're going to stand by those forever, you know? Yes,
absolutely. I say that all the time. I'm like, whatever you say, like, please be comfortable with your mom finding out, because it's in the cloud and she could find out. And that goes for voicemails, text messages, obviously social media, but otherwise pick up the phone. Y'all need to have a conversation.
So rising freshman, going to come and join our family in the women's basketball program. Tessa has asked, how do you deal with the microaggressions that you may face in the workplace?
Sure. Basically, doesn't like admit the fact that they're referencing the fact that Black woman or that you're Black, but they kind of say something that needles you, and it might be like, oh, well, don't be an angry Black woman, or whatever it might be. And what I would say to that is, I've had several times where I felt like maybe a coach wasn't looking me in the eye, or he was treating me completely different than I've seen him treat another reporter, and that goes for work and everything else. You try really hard not to process that as a you problem. You have to process that as it's a them problem. And so I think more that you don't take it in and absorb it and let that, you know, set on your heart, the better. and just remember that not everyone is going to be okay with you, and that's fine. And I've always said that you have to decide whether or not being Black or being a female or being a Black female is going to be your superhero power, or it's going to be your kryptonite. Is it going to be the thing that you loathe about yourself, or is it going to be the thing that you feel like makes you a unicorn and makes you special and want to fly? Like, and I've chosen over time, it wasn't like in high school, you want to be like everyone, feel that way. But over time, I've been like, no, like, great. Like, I love being different. Like, if I'm the reporter that shows up, it's only Maria. There couldn't be another one because we don't have any other Black female reporters. I'm thankful for that now. So I would just say, like, work on making sure you believe that your differences make you special, unique, lean into them, and don't let the way that someone else speaks to you or treats you be indicative of how you feel about yourself, because quite honestly, you shouldn't. And that should be deflected and knocked down at the door, because it does not reveal who you are or mean anything about you.
Great. I'm going to open the floor up for some other questions. I know people are on mute, but feel free to take off your mute if you want to ask Maria some stuff directly. And she's given us some great time here, and so I definitely want to open the floor up to our students and our coaches, because I'm getting tired of hearing my own voice. So certainly want to give you all the opportunity. She's been such a great resource, and want to definitely thank her again for her time, but definitely want to give her the courtesy. I know she's got to hop on another network here in a little bit. So give a couple minutes for some questions if anybody would like to hop on. And certainly don't be shy. She is as nice as they come.
Yeah.
So Maria, you're spending a lot of time still in Atlanta. Obviously we're in a city that's fairly diverse, culturally diverse, and you're spending some time obviously in New York, I know still. What are some of the differences that you've seen between, here and I don't know how much you're traveling during COVID, obviously, but some of the other places that you're visiting?
And everywhere. So, I mean, obviously I've made Atlanta my home, so this is the place that I love and it's where I'm going to be. But what I love about Atlanta is the diversity. I mean, Alex, like when we grew up, like, although our school wasn't completely mixed, like you feel like you had a little bit of everything. People were accepting and we got along, and it just felt good to grow up in Alpharetta. But when I go to New York, it's interesting. It's funny. Everyone's calling me now because our conference call is over. But what's funny about New York is the difference is everyone's life, like they're all hunting something. Like they are really out trying to go get it. No one's worried about being married by 25. They're like, no, like I'm not trying to get married until I'm, whatever company. Like New York is like a city of dreamers. That's how I feel. And when I come to Atlanta, it feels like this is home and it is family. And it's much more family driven more than anything, where New York is driven by like career, jobs, networking, and things like that. And it's good to have both. Obviously, I try to live that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I lean a little bit more towards career, but it's cool to see the differences. But I do think our city as a whole, we've been a leader in so many ways. Like we're a leader in race relations. Obviously, MLK is from here. And we continue to do that and be that. So that's something that I'm very prideful of. And if you follow me, you know that I'm constantly talking about Atlanta and supporting like every single sport and supporting everything we do. Yep. And coming can.
We're so fortunate, and you know us a little bit in regards to Oglethorpe, Maria, but we're so fortunate that there is no cookie cutter Oglethorpe student. There's no cookie cutter Oglethorpe athlete. And what I mean by that is we have kids from all different walks of life. And that's what I think is so special about this place, is that the people on this call are coming from different backgrounds. They're coming from different parts of the country. They're different belief systems and all that type of stuff. So we're really fortunate to have such a special group of young people. And I think what this place does as an alum is it allows and pushes for people to step out and speak out. And I know we'll have some younger students, athletes that are on this call that are just joining our family here in the fall for the first time. And that's what you're gonna see and you're gonna get out of a place like Oglethorpe. Is we want you to find your voice here, and as you get comfortable finding that voice, that you're willing to speak out and for things that you believe in. And as coaches, it's our job to help direct you, but it's a lot up to you too, because once again, everybody has different experiences that they go through in their lives that bring them to this point. And as we all come together and learn from another, that's how we're gonna make this positive change, hopefully. And I did have a colleague that just text messaged me.
I want to add to what you just said, though, Alex, because I think I look back on college, and I would go back any day of the week. I mean, I get to work the national championships. I get to travel for work, and I love it. But the best time of my life is college. Like, you meet so many people, you many new things, like you figure out who you are. Like, you get to decide who you are when you get to college, and you get to decide if you're going to be like this confident person going forward and what you want to do with your life. And so, and I remember I would even go back to practices and do another rep. You know what I mean? Like, I would talk back less to my coaches, like but you don't get it until you're done. And so I wish I could impart that on you. As you're young, you're not going to remember anything that I say, and you're probably not going to remember it on that day when coach is like, another suicide or one more lap or whatever the case may be. But if you have the opportunity to make yourself better, or you have a study abroad program that you're interested in, or you want to learn how to write something or be a creative writer, like, do that. Do whatever it is that's like calling on your heart, and work harder than you really think you need to, because that's going to go. And I'm so thankful for my experiences. And I really believe, like, without being a collegiate athlete, no chance. I'm not here today. I'm not doing what I'm doing. Alex is not having me on the call. We're not having this conversation, because it changed who I was and forced me to be like a very focused and disciplined individual and plot out my life. And then ultimately my school helped me get my first job. And if you do it right, you're going to have people like your coach, Alex, or whoever, helping you find that first job. So it's just important to take advantage of everything that you guys have going forward.
I just wanted to jump in if I could. My son is an incoming freshman, and so I got the email and wanted to jump on because, Maria, I saw you a couple of days ago, and I was just so incredibly impressed with your thoughtfulness, the depth that you captured in your remarks, the emotion. You know, I pay attention to these conversations. I'm somewhat in that world of social justice and the like, and I haven't seen anybody articulate their message in quite the way that you did. So I just wanted to, give you props and congratulate you.
Thank you. Honestly, that means a lot, because I called my mom after it was over, and I was like, I don't even know what I said, Mom. I don't even know what happened or what came over me, but that it was passionate, and it was really how I was feeling in that moment. So that means a lot that you felt that way when you heard it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Moore. And question I got from a colleague, and as the demonstrations, the protests following George Floyd, they start to subside, or hopefully they don't. It's my hope that we don't slow down. But how can we as coaches in our community approach our athletes about continuing that community outreach? Mm-hmm. Especially, we've got the virus still going on, and the social limitations that places upon us.
I think it's all about having systems in place. So I don't know if that's, every time a student graduates, you're finding a way to have them come on and be a GA, or come on and be an community outreach coordinator, or, one day a month where you normally would have practice saying, what we're going to do, we're just going to go to this elementary and we're going to love on these kids, lifts. Maybe it's just, we need to spend some time writing down how we feel, getting in a circle and reading it out loud. Like, it could be that small, but at the same time, it's about putting a system there, like making sure that it's something that we don't just do once a year. It's like, we're doing this monthly, or we're doing this weekly, or it's just a part of our schedule. You know what I mean? It's something to think about. And I'm going to ask you who you reached out to, and I'm going to ask you if you were mentoring that kid, and I'm going to ask you if you're mentoring that freshman that you have coming up. So I do think it's about, making it a routine, really dedicating time to it. And I know for me personally, it took starting a nonprofit to actually be like, it made me, every single stop that I went to, have someone shadow me. It made me go and speak to a class no matter what, even when I was tired. And there's times when you're tired, but when it's like, if this is a system that has been set up, it's in place, and it's part of my routine, then I'm going to go through it. You know what I mean? And so that's something that, you can try to push forward. And that takes a team. Maybe the team sits down and what those ideas look like and what would feel best for you guys and your schedule according to what you all have going on in classes and stuff like that. But there's a way to fit that in and make that a very big pillar of what the program stands for.
You know, you hit something that I think we can all agree on. You're never too busy for these type of conversations or topics. Maria had conference calls all morning. She's going to hop on NBA Countdown here in a couple hours. She's running a nonprofit. You know, just an absolute inspiration that you're doing all these things, and obviously having the success that you're having in your career and all the things that are on top of being in the limelight like you are. And you know, just super proud of you as a friend and super proud of you as a, you know, as a member of our community. And I did want to give you a couple minutes if you wanted to address the group about anything that's on your mind. Wanted to give you the floor.
You know, I was just, you know, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and just trying to figure out like everything that's going on and find ways to express myself best. And I would just tell you guys that it's okay to feel however you're feeling. If you are angry right now, it's okay to be angry. If you feel hopeless right now, it's okay to feel hopeless. And if you feel like you want to go and protest or you want to be a part of the solution, then it's okay to feel all those things too. But right now is the time when we all have to give ourselves a little bit of grace because we are going through a traumatic time period. We're dealing with the pandemic where we are watching lost. And we are dealing with racism, which in its own way is a pandemic that has no vaccine and therefore no cure. So it's okay to sit with these things and be trying to figure out ways to move forward. But at the end of the day, as I said at the top of the call, all of the individuals, all the students and all the athletes that are on the call now, you guys are going to be the difference makers. You guys are going to be the ones that are going to end up being CEOs, and you're a decision maker, and you're going to be the one that has the ability to build a diverse workforce. You're going to be the one that's able to have a conversation with your younger brother or your younger sister or your kids and raise them up to be better. So all I can do is believe that the next generation, that my niece and nephew are going to have a better America than I'm growing up in, the same way that my grandmother felt that I was going to have America because she wasn't able to go to the University of Georgia. And now she has a granddaughter that's a graduate from there and is supposed to speak at graduation. Like, we have to believe that all of these things are possible, even though right now it seems completely out of the realm of possibilities. And I believe we're on the precipice of something big. We've already ignited this flame. I just hope it just turns into this huge fire that continues to burn. But it's up to you guys to make sure that keeps happening. It starts in your community. It starts with your team. It starts with these conversations. And let's just start to build up the America that we want to live in, because we are more than capable of it. You guys are more than intelligent enough to handle, you know, the things that we need to start building moving forward. And I have gone from hopeless to completely hopeful over the course of the last 2 weeks, just because of what I've seen and what I believe you guys are capable of doing.
I just want to, once again, I just cannot tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us, and want to make sure, are there any more questions for Maria before we give her some time to get ready for being on TV here in a little bit?
The usual.
Hi.
Well, hop in. Sorry.
I had one question. Yeah. I'm a South Asian kid playing soccer. I've played soccer all my life, and throughout soccer, I've always been the only South Asian kid. And for most of my career, I've had mostly positive reactions to a South Asian kid playing soccer, but there have been a few negative reactions and negative comments. What advice would you give me and others on how to deflect these comments and reactions?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I know that that's not easy. I share that pain, and being the only Black woman that works basically in college football and a lot of times in the sports broadcasting circles that I'm in. I think one of the first most important things is for you to address the issue when it hurts you. And it might not be in that moment. Say you have a teammate that says something that doesn't sit well with you. You can wait until after practice and have that conversation one-on-one and help them to understand, you know, where you're coming from, and try to help them to understand why that means what it did. The same thing can be said with coaches. You can have those conversations with coaches and feel comfortable having them. And I've always said, if there's anything that is a problem for you, like I wouldn't be afraid to go to my athletic association. I wouldn't be afraid to talk to more than one person to make sure that you're being heard more than one time. And then, like I said earlier, you have to remember that it's not a you problem. You're not a problem because you're from, Southeast Asia. That's a beautiful thing. Like, it's extraordinary that you're there, and I'm sure you're great at soccer and you're awesome, and that is your superhero power, that you get to be the only one in that space. So don't make them feel like you're an outsider or you're ostracized. It's like, in order to be here, I had to be super great. Like, I must be pretty special to show up every day and be on this field and kick your tail. You know what I mean? Like, I really want to empower you to feel that way every time you step on a field, and just make sure that it's not you feeling like you've done something wrong, because you absolutely have not done anything wrong. And we've all been there. I have a young lady who's a part of our Winning Edge Leadership Academy who, she's Muslim, she wears the hijab, and she is a golfer at Nebraska, and she is the only one. And she told me, she was like, I just didn't go to eat my whole first semester of being in Nebraska because, the first time I went to try and go eat, they didn't really want to serve me and my dad. Like, they were confused, like, where'd you guys come from? So don't feel alone in some of these things. Know that there are some people that will always be ignorant, and there's not much we can do about it, but let that be their issue and keep moving forward and find the people that are going to build us up and let them be the ones that breathe life into us. So don't let someone take anything away from you because you're a badass, like I said, okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Great question. Anybody else for the good of the group? All right. Well, Maria, once again, for the zillionth time, just want to tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today, and how much we appreciate everything that you're doing with utilizing your platform, and just the example you're setting for our generation and the younger generation to make this positive change that hopefully is coming our way. It just means the world for us that you would take the time to spend with our community, and I will be sure to put some Oglethorpe swag in the mail for to mail to Mom, Dad, and you, and Big Steve. I don't know if I have any sizes for Big Steve, but I'll have to figure that out. But we just can't tell you how much it means to us that you would spend the time that you have with us today, and thank you so much for using your platform in such a positive way, and helping us change and make these necessary changes that we need to make.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, Alex. I love you. I love your whole family. Big Jack, love you too. And you're a part of the solution because you're even having this conversation. And I would just encourage you guys to take this and take this conversation and see what your team is thinking and continue to move it forward. But certainly appreciate being here. And, I got your back. I'm here for you when you need.
Thanks, Maria. And if you guys have the opportunity to catch her on ESPN and see the great work that she's doing, just thank you all again for hopping on. I want to thank my coaching colleagues for spreading the word so quickly to everyone that could hop on today. And we've been able to record this call, so we'll be able to share it with some of our other student athletes and the rest of our Oglethorpe community. But again, thank you all for taking the time out of your day for joining us. And Maria, thanks so much. It means the world to all of us, and wishing you all the best.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Thanks again.